What's happening, people? Welcome to another edition of Politrick here on the Got What You Need Network. I'm your host, Sky. I hope everybody's doing well and these crazy and volatile times. We're at war. We're at war that we shouldn't be in. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about this Save America Act, which is just voter suppression described disguised as something that's supposed to eliminate illegal voting. And I'll break down just why it's not really needed. Um, and it's just a way to try for the Trump administration to steal the midterms. And I know that this story's kind of went away, but the Epstein fallout continues. Um, More files are released. They further implicate Donald J. Trump, and they implicate him in ways that, are some of the most violent, vile, and heinous acts that you could ever imagine. And that's what's being described in the Epstein files are acts committed by our current sitting president. And there's a good portion of the country that's saying it's no big deal. And that's just crazy. But let's start with the war. So it was built on a house of Trump lies. The negotiator, from Oman stated negotiations were going well. We were making significant progress, and we had another set of meetings, I believe, scheduled in Geneva. And the United States and Israel attacked Iran in the middle of negotiations that where progress was being made. So that lets me know that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, and Steve Witkoff, a longtime friend and real estate developer, has no business making decisions about war, pushed the president to attack them anyway, along with you know who. And the fact that a foreign country like Israel, has so much control over um, our Congress and our military is dangerous. This is an anti-Jew statement or anything like that. They're a different country, and their lobby has too much influence over our congressional representatives, where they are literally choosing to align themselves more with a foreign country than the people of their district who voted them in. And it's just dangerous. Now let's just start with some of the lowlights of the war. On the first day, they killed the supreme leader. Okay, whatever, all fair and love and war. But then you bomb a school, and then you double tap because there's reports that as parents and people that were running to try to help the girls, they hit it again. They tried to come out and lie about it until they could no longer lie about it, and then had to admit it happened, and then wanted to play the intent game, and then wanted to attack anyone who insinuated that the United States or Israel will purposely bomb a school. And I just laughed. Like, we know that Israel basically took out all the hospitals and schools in Gaza. So you telling me they wouldn't do the same in Iran? Come on, Iran? Come on, let's stop that. Furthermore, this war. has destroyed the Gulf relationships that the United States had. Now, you can agree or disagree in regards to U.S. bases on foreign soil and all that kind of stuff, but there's a way to end that dynamic without having trillions of dollars of equipment destroyed, people's lives changed forever, people killed, people injured, people maimed. Like, first of all, Trump was very naive in this, but the Gulf states was also naive in this. They literally thought that they were going to be able to house military bases that were going to be used to attack Iran, and then thinking that they wouldn't get attacked as well. Like that just blew me away in regards to like we didn't do anything. Yes, you did. And then one of the things that should upset um the American people the most was how in low regard this administration looked at Iran's capabilities. And I say that because of this. Prior to them attacking, they didn't move to get American servicemen and military, non-combat personnel to safe places, fortified places where they'd be protected during this war. They thought the war would be over or this attack would happen and Iran would say uncle so quickly. They said, hey, everybody leave the base and go stay in hotels. Like, if you don't believe me, look it up yourself. Literally go stay in hotels. We have reports that military officers were staying in hotels. So when you saw hotels being attacked during those first days or whatever, they were getting reports that the U.S. military and U.S. representatives were holed up in these hotels. They're like, nah, you're not hiding here. Like, how how little you must think of your opponent, your adversary that you claim wants to wipe you off the face of the earth, that you protect your people by saying, hey, just go stay in a hotel on the other side of town. And then when it's over, you could come back. Like that in itself is crazy. But now let's talk about the radar systems, all the planes, the equipment, and all these different bases that were attacked, that was destroyed, and according to many military experts, will take 25 to 30 years to replace many of the things that were destroyed. And in many cases, it won't be replaced because how many of those Gulf countries are going to be open to house a U.S. military base again after all that's went on? Like they would have to be idiots to say, all right, everything's over with. Come on back, go ahead and, put your spy satellites on Iran in our country or whatever, and then think everything is sweet. So we'll see. Um, there's been from the footage that's come out, there's been damage in places in Israel, specifically Tel Aviv, that like we've never seen before. Um, and as a byproduct of this war, Israel is using this opportunity to now um, attack their neighbors in the north, Beirut specifically. I mean Lebanon specifically. I'm not saying it's definitely Beirut or what have you, Syria as well, and many in the international community view this as Israel not protecting themselves, but attempting to take over more land. Um, and to be clear, it was reports that Hezbollah, um, shot into Israel first and joined the fight on behalf of Iran. So this is in a situation where I'm saying that as soon as the war started, they started bombing Lebanon, as of now, they're going back and forth. Now, Israel did do some crazy stuff where a dead soldier was in Lebanon buried for 30 years, and they sent a unit to try to go recover him, and nearly got was killed or whatever. I don't know what that was about. I think that was cover for some recon mission that went bad, and they use that story as cover. Lastly, the Gulf countries went to Russian Prime Minister Lavrov and was like, "Hey, can you talk to Iran, get them to chill out, man? They wilding right now, whatever, whatever." And credit to him, because he was like, I'll sit here and I'll listen to all of you whine. I've read your letter. You want us to condemn Iran, and you want us to bring this to the UN and everything like that. In no time have you mentioned the United States or Israel being the aggressors. In no time did you mention the United States and Israel bombing a school and killing 170 schoolgirls, which is a war crime. But yet you want them You want Russia to tell Iran, hey, stop defending yourself. We know you were attacked first as you were negotiating, as you were making concessions, but now because people think you've taken it too far, or that these Gulf states hypocrisy has blew up in their face. To, to house a U.S. military base and to hear the United States speak the way they speak about Iran, and for these Gulf states to just think that they're just gonna sit around um, in sand, desert sand and hotels and all this space age shit and just live happily ever after. I just think it's some of the most naive stuff ever known to man. I'm just very interested to see what's going to be the dynamic and the makeup of the GCC um, from a political stance once we get to the other side of this war. Trump, he sees that the midterms are pretty much donezo for him. And what does he do? He decides to try to steal the midterm before they even happen, bringing forth this Save America Act, and it's nothing more than voter suppression disguised as stopping illegals to vote. And for those who want to try to bring up, well, you can get a driver's license and not be a citizen, and it says you're not a citizen. It says it bold and clearly on the document, which means that if you took that document and went to try to register to vote, you wouldn't be able to. Furthermore, we have less than 5%. No, we had less than 5 instances of someone attempting to illegally vote. And in almost every instance. It was someone attempting to vote illegally or multiple times, which is illegal for a Republican. Miss Peters in Colorado is in prison for trying to cheat during the 2020 election. He was attempting to cheat for Donald Trump. That's why he's working so hard to try to get her case either moved to a federal situation to where he can pardon her or do enough to hurt the people of Colorado to which the governor has to cave. And right now, what he's doing, there's a Clean Water Act that's specifically to help the people of Representative Lauren Boebert's um, district. And he basically has put a stop to that as punishment. Well, punishment for Boebert for first um, signing on to the discharge petition in the Epstein situation, but now with them not um, pardoning Miss Peters and allowing her and, and 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 allowing her to be released from prison. So this thing where and I'm sorry I got lost in my thoughts. This thing where we're trying to create these solutions in search of a problem gotta stop. Like I'll just explain to you real quickly why it's wrong. First, your motor vehicle ID is not valid. And do you realize how much stuff you have to bring to motor vehicles to prove who you are? Like, I'm not talking about when you get um a renewal. I'm speaking on situations to where maybe you lost it, is a last name change, or you haven't had ID in a minute, so you got to pull out proof of address, um, proof of who you are. You know what I'm saying? All this different stuff. And you're gonna tell me that that ID is not good enough to be a voter ID. So then someone will say, well, Sky, what about the birth certificate? Okay, cool. For most men, because most men have the same surname from the moment they're born until their demise. A lot of women, their surname changes if they get married. So the name on their ID wouldn't even match the name on their birth certificate. And those who have presented this bill have not put any safeguards in place to cover that dynamic because they want women to be disenfranchised at a higher rate than men. Once again, it is purposeful and it's deliberate. Lastly, they say, oh, well, get a passport. Okay. First, to get to have to obtain a document needed for international travel in order to vote domestically makes absolutely no sense at all. I'm going to say that again. To have to obtain a document needed and necessary for international travel, for that to then be required for you to vote in a U.S. domestic election is stupid. And passports aren't cheap. They run almost $200. So that constitutes a poll tax. And from what I'm hearing, this bill is dead on arrival in the Senate, and it better stay that way. All right, let's close with the Epstein fallout and how it's continuing. I know it's not on front page and people are, why isn't anyone talking about it? No, Representative Stansberry, Representative Garcia, Representative Ted Lieu, Representative Thomas Massey, and a bunch of them are not letting this go. Summer Lee, holler at you. They are not letting this go. Trust me on that. They are not letting this go. But like I said at the top of the show, pick a day. Anybody listening, pick a day. Pick any day and just decide, let me go and just browse and skim through the Epstein file. You'll find something in there that you couldn't believe. God forbid you go deep diving into it. You'll see some stuff that couldn't even be made to be TV worthy on SVU unit. That's how heinous these acts that allegedly have been committed by our sitting president. Like, I'm talking rape, allegedly. I'm talking about accessory to murder, allegedly. And the fact that the whole government didn't just stop and say, we can't go on with this man leading us until we get more answers is sad. There's also more questions surrounding Epstein's death. Um, and I know people gonna be like, "Oh boy, here you go, Scott." So I tell you what, go and research the Epstein autopsy report. Then go read the Epstein files where they talk about um, Epstein no longer having a prostate and needing so much Viagra. I just want you to just take those two dynamics. Read the autopsy allegedly for Epstein, and especially the part where they describe his enlarged prostate, and then read the Epstein files to where it is described that once again he needs so much Viagra because he no longer has a prostate. Do with that information as you will. But that is what's out there. I'm not saying anything. I'm telling you to do with that information as you will. Both Pam Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi, excuse me, and um, Cash Patel, Director of the FBI, Cash Patel, both lied under oath when asked about Epstein. They both should be held in contempt, and they both should be made to resign. We can't have the head of our law department both lying to protect or allegedly protect alleged pedophile. We just can't. Pam Bondi got up there, handed those empty binders to a bunch of influencers and was like, the files are coming. Then when she decided to start reading into them, she realized, oh shit, this has Trump name more than anybody else. So then all of a sudden, there weren't any files. They weren't on her desk, you know. Now we know that that was a lie. We also know that if there was any prominent Democrat that was sexy enough to move the needle, that name would have been out there already. They tried to push a T Jay-Z thing or whatever because now it's like anybody that was that did business with anyone connected to Epstein. That's who we're going to look at. We're not going to look at the people that's in all the pictures right next to them at the parties, looking at the little girls and laughing, or described with Lake Michigan. Once again, Google Donald Trump, Lake Michigan, Epstein. Once again, do with that information as you will. But at some point, it's going to be a bunch of people that are going to be looked at worse than Nazis after World War II. You have no code. You basically go along with anything that this president says. Even if you were against something, if he changes his mind on it, you change your mind on it. There's a bunch of people elected to office that are looking the other way with the Epstein files. And like I said, the stuff that exists in those files is sickening. And for any elected official to just say, oh, it's not a big deal, they're just really, really being irresponsible, um, and setting a dangerous precedent. And I just really think that when it's all said and done, not only are the people involved in the direct cover up are gonna get in trouble and be in legal peril, but a bunch of people who just didn't do anything. Where they say uh, silence it means you're complicit. This is exactly what this is. All right, y'all. That's my time. Um, so I appreciate everybody for the support, for the different suggestions on topics. Be sure to check out all the podcasts on this great, great network. We got the Blackmail podcast. We have Life and Love. We have the Encourage and Inspire podcast as well. And you're now tuned into Politics with your boy Sky here on the Got What You Need Network. Make sure that y'all subscribe and add us on Apple Podcasts and like our Facebook fan page as well. All right.